All right, we're starting. Hi, guys, and welcome to DNA Live Radio, which is currently an experiment. How are you guys today?
Doing good. Good.
Doing well.
All right, so just like we did before.
Doing good.
Oh, okay. All right, this is going to be very entertaining. The first show, and it's weird.
Sweet.
Yes. So, one by one, do you guys want me to introduce you guys, or?
That'd probably be easier, I think.
Yeah, go down the original list like a buzz.
Okay, so tonight we have Joy Harrison, Frank Heiberger, Justin Erik, Rob Hood, John Fowler, Thomas Fusco, Kimberly Brouillette, Chris Matheny, Phil Summers, Michael Fierro, and Stephen Prosapio.
Last but not least.
With your host, the redhead, who cusses a lot. So when you guys talk, please introduce yourself more than not. Thank you. That way we can figure out who's talking. I don't have any special equipment or anything to introduce everyone one by one. So first off, let's start with Joy. She's at the top of the list. Tell me about yourself.
I've been involved in the paranormal pretty much as long as I can remember. I'm currently the lead investigator of the Tri-Cities Division of PPRS. And I'm currently going back to school studying sociology and psychology. And I'm a dance instructor.
Nice. All right. And to those who don't know what PPRS is, it's the crazy group that, yes, the redhead runs. And next is Frank Heiberger. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Frank Heiberger, and I was recently kicked out of the corporate world and am trying to make my living as a full-time writer now. Our group did one investigation this summer of a 50-acre property with antiques all over the place. And if you guys ever get a chance, it would be the place to go. It's in northern Wisconsin. You can get to me for details later.
Sounds good. And then next up, Justin Erik.
How's it going? Justin Erik. I hail here from the great state of Texas, Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm with Fort Worth Paranormal. Been involved in the paranormal now since 2004. I've been studying since '99. Actively investigating since 2004 rather. I'm recently medically retired out of the United States Air Force, and now I am a corporate recruiter.
Awesome. All right, Rob Hood, you there?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Robert Hood. I reside here in Vicksburg, Mississippi. Been into ufology since the late 80s. Also producer of Mississippi Film and Photo, do photography as well as films. And currently I'm starring and helping produce a film called the Documentary of Osbo, which will be released in October 2015. So there you go.
Awesome. All right. And next up we have John Fowler.
Hey, how are you? Well, I'm the founder of Midnight Watchman and ParanormalDictionary.com, as well as the event runner for Paranormal Journeys, a paranormal expo.
Awesome. Can you, when is the event, by the way?
It's September 27th at Graham Park in Horsham, PA.
All right. And then next up we have Thomas Fusco.
Hi, folks. I am the author of the book Behind the Cosmic Veil, A New Vision of Reality, Merging Science, Spiritual, and the Supernatural. I'm the developer of the theory of supergeometrics, which is the first comprehensive theory to explain pretty much most aspects of what we call paranormal mechanics. I've been a guest on hundreds of radio interviews, including Coast to Coast AM. I'll be speaking again this October in Minneapolis, Minnesota, at the International Paradigm Symposium, which will include such guests as Erik von Däniken, Andrew Collins, Graham Hancock, Barry Fitzgerald, Marie D. Jones, and a host of other ones.
Awesome. And before I go on, I know that some of you have been on the old show Guardian Radio, so it's Pleasure to have you guys back on. Let's see. We have Kimberly Brouillette and Chris Matheny.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Brouillette, and I'm a co-author of Secrets in the Shallows. It's a paranormal murder mystery, the first of a series. Right now, I'm working on the second book called Devil in the Details. And I'm also the co-founder of Research Institute of the Paranormal with Chris Matheny, as well as I do book editing as well as work at a regional magazine here.
We've never seen it.
Great, and is Chris there, or is he not well?
Yes.
And I'm Chris Matheny. I'm invisible. I'm a co-founder of the Research Institute of the Paranormal. I was raised in a haunted house, and I recently started as a screenwriter and actor.
All right. And are you currently in a production, I think?
I just wrapped last night, actually, playing the lead in a paranormal thriller called The Unknown. I'm playing a British Inspector Cornelius Oliver.
Cool. All right. Next up, Phil Summers.
Hey guys, my name is Phil Summers. I'm probably one of the least exciting people on the show tonight. I'm actually not promoting anything. I've actually been involved in the paranormal for the past 10 years. Recently, I decided to give myself some time off and kind of spiritually invest in my own self, and because I've been dealing with people for about 10, 11 years now, and so I've been taking up mixed martial arts, and one of the martial arts that I'm currently studying right now is capoeira. And like Joy, it's a dance. So like Joy Harrison does, it's a dance that basically involves martial arts aspects into it, and that's pretty much what I've been doing with my time the past year now. So
awesome. And then Michael, do we have you on?
Yes, I can't understand a word anyone's saying, but I'm here.
Okay. He's the one that was having phone sex with his with my phone, I guess. We found the culprit of the heavy breather. All right. So Michael Fierro, I'm gonna try and get you as close to this computer as I can. Can you introduce yourself?
I'm sorry, say that again. I can barely understand you, Danielle, and I can't understand anything anyone else is saying.
Okay. I think it's my phone. All right. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, yeah.
All right. Go ahead and just introduce yourself and see what happens.
Yeah, my name's Michael John Fierro. I'm a numerologist and author of a book entitled You Know Your Name, Look Up Your Numbers. I've been working with numerology for 30 years and currently working on 2 other books.
Awesome. All right.
What is it think if they're on the moon?
What? I'm sorry. Oh. Rob, was that you?
Lunar landing is what he was saying.
Okay. All right.
Do it now.
I already did that. This is such a experiment. All right. So Steve.
Science.
This is Steve. Yes. I wanted to play Weird Science.
Hello, Steve Prosapio, paranormal novelist, most notably of Ghosts of Rosewood Asylum, and the one day, I swear it will be released, The Atchison Haunting, and fiance of
me.
This beautiful lady.
The crazy one. Anyway. Yeah. Alright, so since it's a round table, there's absolutely no pressure and we can be as silly as possible. Let's try and meet that goal. So, I know there's a couple things that we were supposed to save for the show that were brought up. I know that Justin Erik had a hunting story, and Rob had photos of the UFO. Let's start with that.
And Jack the Ripper.
Oh, and the fact that you've had Jack the Ripper up all day long. Yeah, we're weird. This is not a good show. Don't watch the show. It's like Stu. Don't watch the show.
We have the ghost story.
What ghost story? We have a bunch of ghost stories.
You just said somebody had a ghost story.
Oh, Justin, yeah. Justin, go ahead and speak, please.
Oh, well, this was, pre-show, obviously. This was like, I had mentioned, one of the worst investigations you've ever had, type thing, which I'm sure everybody's had.
Yes.
That really bad, worst investigation they've ever had. And this was one that obviously was very, very interesting. We were obviously, I want to say this is probably, probably about 5 years ago. We were setting up. Now this is before I came on with Fort Worth Paranormal, and I was running my own chapter up here in North Texas for past time. And we actually were getting ready to do a joint investigation with Fort Worth Paranormal at the time. Well, anyway, so obviously, as everybody knows, you do the whole screening thing with the private resident type stuff, whatever the case may be, and obviously you really, really want to screen the best way possible. I mean, sometimes it's almost impossible to screen somebody who seems legit or whatever the case may be, whatnot. But anyways, to make a long story short, so we get ready for the investigation. Obviously, they have claims of things happening, things that we can hear in the walls, and so on and so forth. Things that they can, obviously, when the lights go out, they can hear it. The lights turn on, and it stops, type thing. So it's like it only happens at night, and so on and so forth. So we're like, okay, this is strange. Obviously, it came down to the point to where we were like, okay, well, the base readings were fine with EMF or whatever the case may be. We tried every single thing that we could do to try to, disprove whatever it was that they were trying to say at the time. Not in a bad way or anything like that, but just to, using our common sense. And anyways, so we turn the lights off, we get ready to go, we got the cameras on. And there's one particular room where we start hearing these noises. And we were like, man, this is kind of crazy. It's like, shh, like, this is like static in a room. Holy crap, And it's like every now and then you hear like this, what sounds like a hissing noise on the wall. And I'm like, okay, this is crap. What's going on? So, obviously we're walking in there. We open up the door. Me and Kevin walk in. And next thing you know, every step we took was crunch, crunch, crunch. We're like, holy crap. And so we jet out of the room, and then we turn the lights on, and lo and behold, a floor full of cockroaches.
Oh.
We wrapped up. It took us probably about a good 30 minutes to get everything together, right? It took us less than a minute to get everything loaded up and roll. So it was probably one of the worst.
That's
crazy.
That's the thing about these private residence cases that you go to. It's like these people that claim paranormal activity in their house, they have problems cleaning their homes. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like every case that we've been to, every case that I've been to at least, the houses were a disaster. Clothes everywhere. Some houses I've been to had cat feces and stuff like that everywhere, and it's like, these people don't clean their houses or anything. That would solve like half the paranormal issues right there.
Yeah. Too bad we can't stay.
Oh, but I also know of another, another situation. Obviously, with another team, I won't mention, and they got into a situation to where the founder of the team, was saying, okay, hey, our team wants to investigate your house because based off the claims, we don't want your kid to be there. She had a 3-year-old son, all this other stuff. And she was like, okay, well, I have to work, and everything, and I don't have a babysitter. And I was like, okay, well, let's schedule something. She was like, no, I really need this house looked at. Obviously my mom doesn't want to come in, to the house anymore if that's the case. I mean, all these different things. And so, it was originally our case. But then we were like, okay, well, let's pass it to this other team. We didn't realize what was happening at this time. And so basically, the founder of the team's wife ended up babysitting their kid. Well, the lady really didn't work. She actually went out and got drunk, and they had to babysit a kid until midday the next day. And I'm like, oh, God, that's bad.
What is this, Sons of Anarchy?
Well, we did one residential where the place was absolutely immaculate. You couldn't believe that this fellow lived there all by himself. But the place was not haunted. There was nothing going on. 2 teams, very thorough search. The only thing that was happening was his imagination, and he just absolutely insisted that it was haunted, and even tried to badmouth everybody afterward, even though we showed there was nothing going on in his house.
You know, and it's crazy because sometimes these people, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that there's nothing going on.
No, if there was anything going on, it was him.
It's like some of these people that you go to their houses, they think that they could either bank off of it. You know, they could write a book about it or turn their house into a bed and breakfast. We've had one place like that. That was, as a matter of fact, that was the last case that I've ever did an actual private investigation on. The lady had a bunch of Anne Rice books around her. Like, once we got into the actual pre-investigation, we found out that the lady had Anne Rice books in her bookshelf, and she had like every single paranormal activity kind of movie you could think of that exists. And you go on her TV, you could see every sci-fi ghost show to exist on there. It's like, look, lady, it's like, it's like those kind of people, I don't want to mess with them. She could get some other team to. That's basically what we did. What we told her. She said you could get some other team to investigate, and we don't want to mess with you.
So, out of curiosity, Steve Prosapio here. For you guys that investigate, what would you say percentage-wise of the cases that you would write off almost completely versus aren't sure versus are pretty sure something is going on?
Well, Joy Harrison here. I would say, honestly, with me, it's about 75 to 80% cases that is just very, there's a logical explanation for. And then, the other 25, 30% sometimes. But mainly, but I'm glad with that. I'm happy with that. I don't want to find something. I want to not find something so people are safe. But, yeah, I would say the majority of it is just logical, and the rest is just...
I would concur with that. Most of what we come across is there's nothing there. Even some of the famous places that we've been to, there was nothing there. It's hype and imagination.
Definitely. I personally think the number's higher for places that have no activity, probably in the 90%, I would think, for what we've been doing here. But, every group's different for what they run into, too. So who knows what the real number really is.
Now, there have been cases where I go in and basically I stay the whole night there. And, like, I go in alone. I don't go in with the team now, but there's one case where I went in. Oh, this is Gil Summers, by the way. There's one case when I went in and I packed everything up. And when I was done packing everything up, that's when everything started happening. It's like all you could go on is personal experiences. You don't have any proof. Yeah, you don't have any proof of anything, and that's happened to me a couple times.
Yeah, so much of what we end up with is anecdotal.
I have found that I find the most evidence in places that I would never suspect, just normal, everyday places, and then places that has a lot of, hype about it, usually don't find anything.
I've got too much to say on that one.
Sometimes the psych and hype will override your own, curiosity.
Yeah.
Group mentality. This is Frank Heiberger. Big investigations are the worst. We've actually stopped participating in group investigations because once somebody gets something into their head, then everybody else picks up on it. Something that wasn't there suddenly is. You know, you can show them photographic proof, the video, play the audio for them, and show them there was nothing there, but it's just something happened.
That's why.
But
Bill Summers here. That's why I basically, before I go to investigations, I don't do prehistorical research on it. I do that after I do the investigation.
Oh, thank God, someone else does that too. I mean, unless I'm there to truly, like, I don't know. There's a process. If I'm going there to be a channel medium, I don't want to know anything. I don't.
Her sensitive does the same. She won't just know anything until she's done her walkthrough.
Yeah, because I believe psychosomatic is pretty popular in the paranormal field. You know, just thinking something happens, and then you can create that energy. Like if you fully believe the house is haunted, you will find something to convince you, and it most likely isn't true. Like the Queen Mary. I didn't know anything when I went there, and I found out a lot. I had names, I had a bunch of things that happened to me at different times, but I preferred not to know the full history, and then I'd validate it with someone who did afterwards.
Something else that I've noticed is that if you have a large group of people, that it affects the activity in itself, even if it is a typically active place, that when there's a lot of people there, it affects their response. So, you know, we've had that many times, or it is also more chance of messing up the evidence. We had one group that they had asked us to come, and we came back a second time, and there was a bunch of teenagers that showed up, and we couldn't do the investigation well because there was just too much noise.
Yeah.
So.
Do you guys own a lot of equipment? I mean, I know people that go crazy with equipment, but I mean, all you really need is a quarter.
Bill Summers here. Like, honestly, the only equipment that I bring with me anymore is an EMF detector and a video camera.
Yeah.
And a digital voice recorder. That's about it.
Yeah, those are the only three things I use too.
That's the basics of it, pretty much, right there.
Yeah, Justin Erik here. We've actually, believe it or not, dumbed down our equipment down to, believe it or not, just your simple bells, whistles, baby powder, and cameras.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Anything homemade. Good.
So we have had a really good response. Our spirit box. We've had some pretty amazing situations where we've asked unusual questions. We went to in Bellbrook, Ohio. We went into a hardware store, and in that hardware store, we literally had a conversation. And one of the things that we do typically on those is we'll ask unusual questions that there's no way that they would answer something that would be typical, like which president, do you remember? And one of them we actually got Roosevelt, and we asked, well, which one, Theodore or Franklin? And they said Teddy. So it was a very unusual spirit box conversation that we did have, and it was a very high EMF field in the whole area. I mean, none of those EMF detectors or anything like that would affect it there, because there was a lot of wires that weren't even grounded. So, but we just had a tremendous conversation with this spirit, and he actually followed us upstairs, and I was with Kat Klockow, if you know her, and she has a Japanese spirit guide, or one that speaks Japanese, and the spirit actually interrupted the conversation that they were having. It was really kind of funny.
I'm sorry, guys, are you there?
We're here.
We're still here, yeah.
Okay, I'm listening.
I haven't turned on my ghost box in, God, a year now?
We've tried an experiment of this Frank Heiberger, of just putting it on one channel for a little while to see if anything will come through, and then sneaking it up a tenth, and just bringing it up a little bit at a time to see if anything happens, to try and get away from the rate that comes through. This is when you're investigating around a big area like Chicago, we get so many radio stations and so much comes through that we've been trying to find ways of getting around that. Has anybody else tried anything like that?
John Fowler.
Basically, scanning AM. My bad, John.
That's all right. Finish what you're saying first. I'll jump in.
Yeah. Just scan AM and channels around midnight. They kind of die out. Yeah, drop off. So scanning AM help a lot.
We were out in the middle of nowhere, and we actually didn't even have cellular service. Where we had a tremendous. We actually heard. There were no radio stations, no cell service or anything. So we had absolutely no interference on the radio, on the AM stations. Even
That's
it was.
really cool.
Yeah, so that one was really unusual that we were that remote. It was near the Uwari forest, but it was fairly deep in there and in that area. But this house was was built in the 1850s, 1830s. Okay, and it was owned by a U.S. senator that was elected twice. He was a doctor, and Stonewall Jackson's army actually walked right by the house, and he was a doctor, so we assumed that, being a doctor, he would have treated some of the, some of the soldiers that were there. But one of the responses we got was, and it was with a Southern accent too. It was a "never will give up, just never will."
Actually, the most incredible response I think we ever got on the Spirit Box, this was Matheny, during that session, in the break where it's supposed to say something, it usually says like one word, there was a continuous sentence, and it said, "That's the way we get you," all in one voice. So it was like it stretched the break that was supposed to be there.
Yeah.
A tenth of a second break became a three-quarter of a second break. It was insane.
We also heard different voices would come up at different parts, but you could hear they were the same voices, but they were not like radio voices. They were saying things that wouldn't be on the radio. We asked one. Chris asked one what his favorite song was, and it was. He said, "What was the name of the song?" Okay, the dog.
Walking the Dog.
Walking the Dog, and we found out that was a song that was from the '60s. So it was kind of neat that we found that out afterward. And he kind of sounded like, this voice that sounded like this old African American dude, that was listening to blues and stuff.
That's some cool, experiences with the Ghost Box. I think we've all had something interesting with the Ghost Box. I know what our group's been doing, try to eliminate some of the FM, AM, I guess you call it interference. We've been actually putting it in like an aluminum box to kind of direct the radio waves away from it. So basically cut out the radio as much as possible, which is a challenge depending where you're investigating, as Frank had said as well.
Absolutely. This is Justin Erik again. We did have one experience with the Ghost Box. So much that we even called it the Profane Box. We were getting cussed out. We were, F-bombs.
Hey, people can cuss too.
And it's funny because then you have a lot of people, how do you know it's not a radio station? I'm like, do you think the FCC would allow F-bombs? I mean, honestly. I mean, think about it. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, so for that night, we called it the Profane Box.
I had similar experiences. I know exactly what you mean. That'd be like $1 billion from the FCC. You
sent me some of those, didn't you, John?
What's up?
Like 2 years ago, you sent me some clips from your EVPs.
Yes, good old Stemmy's place, the Black Horse. Getting told to F off constantly is kind of interesting from Frank's box because, well, you shouldn't hear that. I mean, it's one thing for, you believe you've heard an answer to your question, another thing for telling you to fuck off.
Yeah.
It's totally different. I mean, that's not what you'd expect to hear out of that, and it's, once, maybe it's just me hearing it, 20 times, someone's telling you something.
Yeah. Get the F out of here before I kick you and then confuse you with something.
But yeah, it's at times I'm very skeptical of the Frank's box, the Shack Hacks, the Spirit boxes, just because of that radio potential to interfere. But I've seen some interesting stuff. It's hard to explain from a lot of different people, and it just got my curiosity piqued still, basically.
Has anyone ever heard any chanting or growling or anything?
Yes.
Is that Joy? Wait, is that Joy or Kim?
Oh,
Yeah, who wants to go first?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Alright, I was on an episode of My Ghost Story back in 2010, and basically in the story, we were at Tilly Bend, which is basically this church out in the middle of nowhere, where there's a story of this witch that got hung, and her body got buried in a cemetery by the church, near the church, and the actual body was, there was no grave marker for the actual body, and we found the actual marker. There actually was a marker that they did put in for it, and we found it, and that day some things happened, and one of those things was in the ghost box. We actually heard some Indian chanting, and I didn't find out till later that that area was occupied by a bunch of Apache Indians way a long time ago, and it made sense because during the time of the chanting, that's when there's a lot of weather spiking up and a lot of really bad weather. And one of the tree branches that was above me actually broke off, and it was a heavy tree branch, and it hit my camera and broke it.
Nice.
I want to interject something just so people know. This is Thomas Fusco. I am not a paranormal investigator. I've never been on a paranormal investigation. I've not have personally experienced anything that is commonly reported within the catalog of paranormal events that would be associated with a quote-unquote haunted house.
Don't worry.
Oh, I'm not worried about it.
Well, no, it was a variety show until
Paradigm Symposium. The point I'm trying to make is that I have a kind of a unique perspective on it because I'm kind of looking at it from the outside in, and that I look at what my interests are is the understanding of the science behind it. So that's, I don't have any kind of ghost stories or anything like that. I do actually have a question for the investigators on in the round table here. And I heard you speaking earlier about the various kinds of issues that you run into with certain investigations. And, you know, the vast majority of them seem to be, you know, that there's no phenomena there at all, and so on and so forth. And then we talk about equipment, and of course that costs money. And you know, some of the popular sites that have been popularized on TV, I know now charge fees for people to come and investigate. And one of the things that I've talked about on occasion on different shows is that paranormal groups should charge for doing an investigation.
some do.
Yeah, and I was just wondering what everybody's feelings were about that, and why, and all that good stuff.
The one thing that I have an issue with, and I mean it'd be awesome to make a living doing that, or at least have something to put back into the group, which would help a lot. When you advertise as a volunteer group, it gets kind of controversial if we were to charge for something. unless we had a location that we could use. Like a lot of people go to paranormal events and they'll do ticket sales and stuff like that. But there's a lot of insurance things and other issues you run into. And like we have Joy knows we have a tax ID, so we can get into locations like that. But it just gets pretty.
Yeah, Phil
what I
Summers
mean.
here. Like, the biggest problem with charging for investigations is that a lot of these groups run off a nonprofit organization anyway. Like, that's what they file as, nonprofit. So if you were to really start charging for these investigations, then you would be in trouble with the IRS, obviously, because you're not. If you're, I don't know the legalities, terms behind it all, but
well, you would only be in
also,
trouble if you didn't file taxes on it.
Well, there's the other thing too. There's no guarantee that you're going to find anything, and if you do find something and the owner isn't happy, they can come back and they can sue you.
Yeah.
And you can get in a lot deeper of a problem than you could have ever imagined.
And the whole thing about it is this: it's basically this thing that we're doing is not really a proven science, and it's not really something you can actually say is definite. It is, you know, it's like the guy said earlier, it's all anecdotal most of the time. So to actually charge something for somebody that's not actually proven, that's, I mean, I just don't see any kind of.
I see what you're saying. For me, then again, understand I'm an outsider, so to speak, looking in. I'm part of the community only to the point that my theory delves so deeply into paranormal phenomenon, provides many answers that previous ways of looking at things does not. But also it gives me a kind of a different perspective. So when I hear you, Phil, talk about, you know, this is anecdotal, there's nothing definite about it, this and that, my question then would be, and you know, I'm playing a devil's advocate, but it's a legitimate question, what is the value of a paranormal investigation?
Really?
Go ahead. Sorry. I just want to say, honestly, in my opinion, I feel that I don't do this for fame or money. I do this to help people. And I think that when I get called to a case, I think that it was meant for me to help that person. I mean, yeah, sometimes there isn't anything there, but sometimes there is. I've been offered money just for helping people with things, and I just don't really believe in it. But like Danielle said, when you have a group, of course, you know, there's money that you have for badges and for equipment and gas, and that's when you can have events and fundraisers and things like that and do overnight ghost hunts. But as far as charging a client money, no, I would never think that would be a good idea.
And here's another thing. If the client offers to pay, like they want you there so bad they'll pay, in my experience, those are the ones that you need to watch out for. Because they're going to expect something from you, whether it be true or not. They're going to want something that you most likely cannot provide. And if you fail them, they're going to claim that you took money from them. So it's just very... Most of the people you deal with in the paranormal field are crazy. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Because it's like the medical field. Okay, there are people that say the medical field is total BS because we have proven science for this, that, and the other thing. It's same with paranormal. I mean, it's considered the holistic version. I mean, it's still considered alternative. It's still considered strange. The society has not accepted it fully, and even with the TV shows.
Exactly, and the value of it that you were asking about is basically the peace of mind that the people actually got from you being there. That's all it took was for somebody being there.
Education and counseling. Those are the two things that I think are more important than getting all hyped up about investigation. Now, you can do the investigation, the preliminary, ask questions, but the whole process, and the reason why I valued certain people over others in the paranormal field when it, you know, got more popular and got on TV and stuff. Some shows, they just show total bullshit. Some they'll say, yeah, but the thing is it's the same thing with Law and Order. I love Law and Order, but I know that's not how a case works. Okay, it does not go that fast. It does not. It's nowhere near that. They don't just close cases every 40 minutes. Okay, But it's the same thing with the paranormal thing. I mean, you most likely will not find anything. When you do, it's not going to be that exciting. I mean, the reason why I got into demonic work is because I grew up with that crap. But I wouldn't suggest it. You know, just because people do it doesn't mean everyone needs to do it. It's very dangerous, and there's a whole bunch of other things that go along with it. That's why education is important, and counseling. That's what you're there for, is peace of mind, just like they said. I don't know.
Well, it seems to me, and again, I'm playing the devil's advocate, but I'm asking very legitimate questions. That one of the things that I hear many people in the paranormal community speak about are standards. You know, so that and Danielle, you were just talking about something like that too.
Yeah, there are standards.
Where there has to be some sort of a standard, and yet it seems that every time I broach the subject with suggestions from my extensive business experience that would help bring standards to the field, it seems like everybody is against them.
Well,
so
are you
all
referring
want
to your...
standards, but nobody wants to see the things occur that would actually help promote standards.
No, I completely understand, and there's a lot of people that have different beliefs and levels of standards or whatever you'd like to call it. Are you referring to the money question as well?
The money question is part of it.
Because it makes sense. It really does. I give you credit for asking, and it's a very touchy subject for a lot of people.
Let's take a look at orbs are a touchy subject. Money's just a debate.
Well, money can be touchy because of the issues we run in with the quote-unquote client. I've had more than most people I've ever met and even were interested in the paranormal are pretty crazy. And most of it is faked, or they want attention.
Which is why the money question and the standards question becomes such a challenge, because everybody's in it for similar reasons, but then where they're going to go with that is the question. Like somebody who wants to be in it for fame, fortune, doesn't want their evidence thrown out because they want to be able to go on TV and say, this is what I got, look at this, look at me, pay me. While other people who are just investigating and want to know what's out there go, well, what is this? And if somebody goes, oh, it's dust. Oh, why? And then you explain it to them and you move on and you learn something. So that's where the problem comes with standards, because you have similar starting points, but we all got different directions we're heading in this field. Or hobby, whatever you want to refer to it as.
See, my basic standard when I think about it is it doesn't matter if you're in it to be on TV, or it doesn't matter if you're in it to be that client investigator. You know, it doesn't matter what you're in the field for, but as long as you tell the truth and you're legit, that's all that matters. That's all. That's all I ask. That's all, you know.
Well, that's how you stay around. Phil.
Thank you, Phil.
That's how you stay around in the field. You know, that's just, if you do that, you will become and stay in the field longer, be respected, and be.
Because you're not lying about what you really are about.
Well,
I'd rather someone tell me they want
you
money
do
than.
some bull crap in the past. Tell the truth about it. Don't, you know.
That's accountability.
It's accountability. Take accountability for your crap you've done in the past. Not everybody's perfect, so I mean.
No.
Exactly.
Speaking of not being perfect, I've got a good story about this topic. Obviously, paranormal author and a fictional writer, but at one point, after my book had been out for a number of months, somebody had contacted me, and by this point, I had gotten much more involved in the paranormal industry, paranormal groups, investigative groups, and they had challenged me about a portion of the book. In my book, there's kind of a quote unquote good group, and there's a quote unquote bad group on TV that basically combine forces to investigate a case. And in the history of the good group, someone was offended, or a couple people mentioned that they were not really happy that that group had charged money to clients early on, and I wrote back and I said I don't think that I don't remember ever saying that they did, and sure enough they knew the page number and everything else. It had been so long since I'd actually written that part of the book and hadn't been as involved in the paranormal industry that it was in there, and so it was kind of interesting when I did the digital rights converted back to me from my publisher. I went back and actually changed that that part of the book out of it, because there seemed to be just such a universal kind of belief that shouldn't be happening.
I think it's because of the abuse that goes on in something that's highly misunderstood.
Well, this is what I look at. You know, from where I'm coming from, I am not satisfied with the field of paranormal phenomena being looked at as a freak show and as some sort of a hobby or practice or whatever you might want to call it. I believe it should be a legitimate field, and there are some very important reasons for that to happen. One of my vision of the future, is that we crack the physics that are behind these phenomena.
See, we won't ever crack the physics behind it, because as long as you don't have that PhD and that title behind it all, no scientist is going to take you serious.
Well, I'm a scientist. I wrote the theory of supergeometrics.
Actually,
I'm a theoretical cosmologist.
Wait, who's trying to talk?
Actually, Duke University has a paranormal study program here in North Carolina. At Duke University.
And they're one of the most respected medical colleges in America.
So there are some places that it's starting to get some traction.
It's a slow process, but remember how.
And
I think part of I think part of what we've got the problem with is the way we investigate with the cameras and video, and we have these little pieces of info that we show, and everybody is asked, do you believe this is paranormal or not? We all have that horror stage when we first start out, and then we learn it's just fuzz and whatnot. What we don't have, and what we need to do, and what I'd really love to talk with you about, Thomas, is developing equipment that actually logs information over a period of time. And I've actually got a pile of stuff sitting here on my desk to work on that will record not just the simple things that we're talking about, trying to catch radio waves, but we really don't know what it is, so basically we have to record as much as we can think of everything, even if we're recording the 4 different types of radiation. And record it over time, and then with a standard way of reviewing these, whatever the data is that we collect, compare that to a table where we can numerically compare these things and draw correlations of events that we notice or that people experience when they're in a place. What was happening in the environment at that time? We have it recorded, and we can then compare it to what was experienced. And then you start developing something that isn't anecdotal. You start developing an actual database of observations, just like Galileo and Copernicus did way back when. They were making observations and writing them down, and that's actually the software that we're planning on developing. We were actually going to call it Galileo because of that. And the whole idea is that you develop these devices that record everything that you can possibly think of, with sound, with video, in whatever, your thermal, your low vision light, whatever you can think of to record, and then try and correlate it all with something that happens and see if there are patterns. And once you've done that, then you've actually started to take this from a hobby and into an actual science.
Yeah, and there's that's very important. There's a number of interesting points about that. First of all, of course, some of you folks are familiar with David M. Roundtree, and he has done quite a bit of extensive work in that area. He's actually a collaborative associate of mine. He's actually
Wait, so remember, he's talking about David Roundtree. Remember when I hit you up?
Yeah, I was ready to say that. We actually met on in February of 2012 on the show Danielle had at that time, which was Guardian Radio, and her and I had a pre-interview conversation on the phone, and she felt that after talking to me a little bit, she wanted to bring in someone who was much more scientifically minded on the subject. And so she had invited David Roundtree to co-host a show. Now, David and I didn't know each other. We had no knowledge of either one of us or any one of our works. You know, he thought I was just some other crackpot who was going to come here and say, you know, I know about the, you know, science of the paranormal. He was ready to cut me a new one, and he tried to at first. And I thought he might have been. I saw the name Roundtree, and I figured, oh, this guy's got to be one of those, you know, Indian medicine man or something like that. So we didn't know each other, but as we were talking, I was telling him about my theory, and based on that theoretical structure, it was able to make certain predictions. Anybody versed in science and theory of science understands that a fundamental of theory, not speculation, not hypothesis, but theory, is that it makes predictions that are experimentally testable. And so I was talking about various experiments that could be done and what kind of results this theory would predict that those experiments would result in. And gosh, what was it, Danielle? Maybe about 5 or 6 different ones where David kept saying, I conducted that experiment, and that's what I found. I conducted that experiment, and that's what I found. I conducted that experiment, and that's what I found. And at that point in time, the way I look at it, a new era of paranormal research began. It's just as slowly everybody else is you know, catching on to it, so to speak. But, you know, the points that you make, Frank, are very important, and David has done a lot with that. But what we do when we get into that, Frank, is we begin to deal with motive.
Yes.
And there are a lot of different motives. And again, Phil, no offense to what you said, but the vast majority of people that I've heard that make this declaration of science will never understand the paranormal. The underlying belief or the paradigm of that is that those people generally trade and get their satisfaction off of the mystique of the paranormal. That anything that would demystify the paranormal would damage whatever it is that they get out of it.
Well, of course, I was speaking as a devil's advocate as well. You know, I actually do believe that at some point in time, science will give us some understanding as to what's happening. I honestly believe from an actual scientist's mind, you know, a guy with a PhD in a white lab coat that's working out in CERN lab or something like that. I don't believe those guys really think about it too much. There may be a few of them, but I don't believe that those guys really take into account the experiences that we experience.
Well, a big part of that has to do with the paranormal field itself. When you see the kind of things that go on and are said and what's practiced and all those kinds of things, if I was a employed mainstream scientist, I would be amongst my fellow scientists running towards the door like I was in a nightclub on fire. I would distance myself as far away from this field as I possibly could.
I was just about to say that, actually.
Yeah.
Can I just make something very clear to everyone? It's the same. Okay, think of it this way: fibromyalgia, paranormal field. What else? Almost everything. What's the two between those two things? What is the common problem as to why there's no true understanding?
You can't ever, right.
There's no profit. There's no profit out of it that people can visibly see, and therefore causes a problem. Just like with the pharmaceutical companies. Who wants to find a cure when they can make all the money after making people sick?
Right.
Well, that's
the pharmaceuticals. But the thing is, with the paranormal, I mean, there are scientists that do believe in it. I love. He's an astrophysicist, and he's absolutely amazing. I was watching How the Universe Works, and he was on there. I can't think of his name to save my life right now, but they believe in it. They do. They're not, you know. fully studying the paranormal, but they believe in it.
I
And
believe
so
that's
far, I
Brian
think that's a
Green's-
good step.
That's Brian Green's show.
No, Dr. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Next show we'll talk about that.
Michio Kaku.
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, they openly believe in it. But the problem is, that's the first step. We need to be able to have people convinced that the paranormal field is ready to move forward when we have mostly people that can't even read 5 pages.
The problem
Doing
with
investigations.
that is that, and again, as you know, I've been on many, many, many radio interviews.
Yeah.
And many of those interviews are hosted by people who are paranormal investigators or have been themselves. And as a general rule, I find that those hosts are, for the most part, a cut above what you would consider to be a rank and file in the paranormal communities. These people have a little bit more on the ball and a little bit more serious focus. But from that experience, I would say that out of the paranormal investigative community, I would think I would be generous in saying that less than 5% are really interested in the science of the paranormal beyond how you can build a better K2 meter, or, you know, how can I get a better infrared or full spectrum camera. Beyond that, they're really not interested. And of that small percentage, there's a very, very, very tiny percentage that would actually want to fully embrace and engage in the complete no-fun zone of doing serious scientific investigation in the field, according to, like, some of what you were talking about, Frank. You know, I would say 99-point-something% of the paranormal community would then be running to the door like they were on a nightclub on fire.
Because they can't understand it. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying I would love to move further in the paranormal field. Problem is, 1, education. Not everyone is up to speed on that at all. Most people barely know what they're doing, and they sign up for it because they think it's fun.
Well,
and that's the problem.
that, Danielle, too. Some people don't even know what they're doing when they go out, and that becomes
Exactly.
a problem as well.
That's the problem.
They
Is
have no
we don't
idea
have
how
people.
dangerous it can be either.
But we don't
Yeah,
have
they're
people
just
that are
thrill
mature
seeking.
enough to even think to go in that direction. That's the problem. We have very limited amount of people that actually understand what they're talking about. And it's understandable that, you know, not everyone has the same IQ or anything, but come on. I mean, we really do not have a quote-unquote paranormal community that is fully engaged in it, like they say. And I haven't been doing a lot of investigations, not ever. Like, I have more personal experience than I do out in the field, but the thing is you learn, you get educated. It's a choice. And people aren't making that choice because it's more fun for them to get a thrill and go out and see what they can do because they watched a show. That's my problem.
And that's the thing. That's
I
what
don't
I've
understand.
found. The vast majority fall into a number of categories. And again, guys, you have to remember, I'm an outsider looking in. I'm not in on it, so to speak, so I don't have a horse, that particular horse in the race. We have the thrill seekers. We have the ones that make the ones that want to make a name for themselves. We have the ones that are what I would call trophy hunters. You know, they go around like a bass tournament circuit. They see how big they catch more and bigger bass than anybody else does. And this is what gets their satisfaction. We have the, how would I say it, the counterculturalists, the ones who get off on the paranormal being weird and strange. And so that they, although may have not been able to make themselves an expert in anything in a mainstream field, can make themselves an expert in a field where there are no standards.
No one's checking. That's the problem. No one is checking.
Nobody wants anybody to check. Every time that comes up, there's always, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, and you can't do that. Then there's the ones that I call the ugly buggers.
The problem with the ones that do come out and check it, they always have dirt on themselves in the past. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. They don't claim the dirt either. They don't have any accountability of the dirt, and they try to hide it, and they try to set themselves above everybody else, and that's why people when it has come up, and there has been a few individuals out there that have tried to do it, it just doesn't, it just doesn't work.
Nobody salutes when the flags, run up the pole, because most people in the community know that such a movement would be a direct challenge to why they are in the field and why and the satisfaction they get from being into it. For example, who's that fellow who led that Fact or Fake show?
You mean
Ben
Hansen.
Yeah, Ben Hansen. And he's on a couple of occasions made a public statement. Science will never understand the paranormal.
But where is he basing that off of? Exactly.
Well,
I get your point. That's what I'm trying to say. That statement is always going to be presented because they aren't supplied with enough information to make a good an actual statement about it. I mean,
I think
science
if you
will
look
catch.
at it at the basic concept, it's energy. I mean, scientists know energy. We know energy. Spirits are energy, and you can't really destroy energy.
Well, let's not get into that conversation, because that is one of the big misnomers and misunderstandings in the paranormal field.
About energy, or
yes.
Yeah, people don't. Energy is classified into so many different trying to think of the word I'm looking for. Sections, or not sections, but energy. Types. There's so many different types of energy and so many different types of classifications and all that good stuff. And it just people don't understand what's going on in that area.
Yeah, I mean, there are terminologies that are tossed around in the paranormal community that are presented in a quote-unquote science-y way, but when you look at it, the terms are not used in a scientific manner at all. It just sounds sciencey.
They're misused. It's just you just say it that way. They're misused. It's the truth. And we have different terms for different things. And, I mean, running Paranormal Dictionary, I know some of the stuff on there is not 100% correct today, as I'm working to move things forward with definitions. But I can tell you now in the field, like, orbs are a great example. Like, somebody will tell you it's a spirit, someone will tell you it's dust. As a definition, there is a truth there, obviously, but it's what your belief is in it, too. And that comes down to, like Joy had said, I don't mean this as offense, Joy, but saying that spirits have energy, we don't know that 100% on the science level. We assume that, we believe that.
What we do know, though, is that energy is mass times the speed of light squared, so that's what we do know what energy is, so, I mean...
Well, no, let's what you just said is very important. It's the most famous formula that was ever published in the history of mankind. Yes, energy equals the mass times the constant, the speed of light squared. So that you could just as accurately say spirit mass. That's energy and matter are two forms of the same substance. And so people just lock on to the energy thing. And the real scientific understanding is no, everything is not just energy. Just like everything is not just mass. Energy is a very specific thing. It has a specific physical quality to it. And so what we're actually looking at is two forms of the same thing. We have no greater emphasis in the substance of reality. There's no greater emphasis on energy than there is on mass. Okay,
so before we go on and on about this, which I respect everyone's opinion. I don't judge. I love science. It's amazing. And the only thing is with the paranormal, this isn't the only field that's misunderstood. So we can harp on it all night. We can figure it out. But Thomas, we'll have another show where you can get into all your views and everything about the book and your findings. I still want to know what you and David have come up with over the last 2 years. And Frank keep us in the loop too. And we'll come back and do a separate one. But
Yes.
is there anything, like any events, anything that you guys wanted to talk about? We're going to take a break soon, and then I'm going to stop the broadcast, and we'll come back for those that need to leave, or just a 5-minute break in general, okay?
All right.
Okay.
So,
Sounds good.
John, can you talk about your event more? I'm kind of interested in that.
Well, Paranormal Journeys, it's interesting. We have different people all the time in the paranormal field there, from psychics to, as I call her, hardcore investigators, which are ones that use more skepticism. And basically, I try to cover all elements of the paranormal in the community in one event, just because there's different views. And my biggest thing is challenging people to actually think. And I mean, just like Thomas brought up the standards that earlier that took us to where we're at today. In this show, it was interesting to me because hopefully people think they heard this a little bit about what they believe, and that's what I'm all about, is challenging, the thought process and moving forward on it. And the expos, like I said, is part of that. You have different groups, different types, free to get in, family friendly. Unlike a lot of the paranormal events around that cost you a lot of money to get in the door, plus other stuff, ours is free to get in. The lectures are only $5, and everything is going towards Grand Park and Horsham, PA on the 27th of September. So charity and the paranormal, I do believe, should go hand in hand in a lot of ways, and I do walk the walk.
Okay. And, let's see. We lost Rob a while ago, just in case you guys needed to know that. Is Chris there, Kim?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay. Kim, why don't you talk about your book real quick? Just give us a...
Well, Secrets in the Shallows is a paranormal murder mystery, and it's, so often you have the mysteries, that don't necessarily involve the paranormal. This one does, but they aren't necessarily the main function, the main part of it, but the spirits do help out with the investigation aspect. And so we're going to be having a character in the second book that's actually a paranormal investigator. And that is going to be part of helping with the investigation with regard to the serial killer's murders. So there's a lot of twists and turns with regard to the story. The second book, it actually continues what's going on in the first. The first one, I will warn you, you don't find out who the murderer is for sure. And so the third book, the second book you actually do find out, and then the third one you find out the why. So it's the what, the who, the why, with regard to Secrets in the Shallows. And the second one is Devil in the Details, which we're currently writing. Hope to have it out definitely in time for Christmas, but I'm hoping for Halloween. So working on that very hard. And then, but Secrets in the Shallows has been out just at a year now. And you can find that on Amazon, and it's on Kindle as well as paperback.
And Thomas, can you give us the name of your book again and where to find it?
Yes, it's called Behind the Cosmic Veil, A New Vision of Reality, Merging Science, the Spiritual, and the Supernatural. And all the details about it and where to get the book can all be found at www.cosmicveil, spelled V-E-I-L, cosmicveil.com.
Okay. All right, and with Joy, in regards to the Paranormal Awareness Group, let's kind of go around. What are some of the things that you would, to an amateur / beginner, recommend that they do and that they don't do? Let's give a couple bullet points here to make it a little bit easier on people. Safety rules, things you suggest, what kind of equipment that you would, you think is best. If someone were starting out, like most are nowadays, what would you tell them?
Don't trespass. Go in places that you have permission. If you don't want to end up in handcuffs because you just want to go on some thrill-seeking, endeavor. or in a hospital because you went through the floorboard, in a rotten building. So.
Yeah. That or become suspect
I
in
got a
murder.
good one that everybody always overlooks. Whenever you do buy equipment, always get the warranty. Unless you plan on hacking it somehow. Always get the warranty on the equipment.
All right. Any good places to get equipment that you would recommend? Anyone? Testing, Fowler.
Make sure that your cameras have 0 lux.
Can you repeat that?
Make sure your the IR cameras has 0 lux on them on your cameras. Night vision.
Okay.
They've changed the way that they do the night vision over the past few years, and the older ones are actually better in some ways than the newer ones. Sony's, I guess in about 2010, 11 or something like that, they started changing the bulb, and it has 1 lux. And when you have that, you cannot see in total darkness. So.
Always have your camera set on manual, never on automatic, because that's where all the recording issues comes into play. Is when you rely on the equipment's ability to handle it themselves, because most of the time they can't. Learn your equipment. Always set it on manual. Always carry around some AAA batteries.
Lots of batteries.
Yes.
Yes, I like to drink batteries.
Don't run because you're an idiot. There you go.
And the one thing I would tell everybody starting out is read.
Yeah.
Get David Roundtree's book. Check out Thomas's book. Get the things that people have experienced and read. And don't just read the recent stuff. Educate yourself. Find out what you're getting into before you go do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's one. Especially dealing with the dark stuff like I have. If you don't feel that you are qualified or ready to take a case, please, for the love of God, do not take a case. Do not do it. There's no shame to that.
Yeah, there's no fun in finding something demonic.
Right, and if you do find something, yeah, get the hell out or call someone. Like, for example, I tell people, like Joy, for example, if they have a problem and it becomes like a domestic abuse or they need counseling or mental thing, I tell them they need to handle it accordingly. It can't be like every other case. You can't just dismiss the case. If there are things that you need to learn aside from quote unquote investigating. There are just with a camera in the dark, you need to know how to talk to people. You need to know how to interview people. You need to know what to do in situations like reporting domestic abuse, violence, if they claim that there's paranormal activity and like their husband's beating on them or some bull. You need to be able to find ways to check the basic things, like you were talking about the cockroach story. Get your house checked first. Have them hire someone to check out their house, the plumbing, electricity, everything. Because if it's that big of a concern for them, they'll do it. Anyone else? Who's that?
Breathing returned.
I don't think anyone else is having sex, so we're good. I like making things awkward. It's fun.
My comment in that area is this: for me, of course, I think there is sufficient data in the paranormal field to draw theoretical conclusions on. And of course, in the field today, we only have 2 scientific theories, comprehensive theories. And that's David Roundtree's trans-universal theory and my supergeometric theory. So what I would want to see is people who want to be at the leading edge of what I call one of man's final frontiers, and to validate, to test these theories, to reproduce the results that are, that are predicted and being gotten as a result of this theoretical work. As far as the demon stuff, yeah, I agree with all of you. I mean, if it is what it appears to be, you are talking about an intelligence that is intelligent, means it can make purposeful decisions, that is hostile, that can actually manipulate the very substance that your body and brains are made of.
It's a health hazard. It's one of the biggest health hazards you can come across.
You want to go play with something like that, God bless you.
Well, the thing is, it's not just you I'm talking about. It's the people that you will be trying to help. You can get them killed. It's very serious, and that's one of the things about awareness. Even if it looks like a small case, but you don't feel ready for it, don't do it. If your health isn't any good, don't do it. If someone is getting sick in your group and then it starts to become some suspicious issue, like people start getting sick, things are going crazy, like, step back. Look at the situation before you enter a home or a public place. It's very dangerous, and people seem to think it's a joke, and I'm not for the thrill. I don't like the thrill. It scares me, and I'll admit that. There's a lot of things that scare me, but that's because I've seen a lot of things, and I know how serious it is. Regardless of what anyone believes, there are real things that happen that people underestimate. And I mean, a good portion is the media. I mean, they really do hype things up, like, a lot.
Yeah, they show all the fun and games, but they don't show the bad stuff, like the pets that die and people that get sick and the freak accidents that happen that you can't explain. They don't show any of that stuff. They just show the exciting stuff.
Yeah, or exciting to someone who's out for blood. I mean,
yeah.
Come on. All right, guys, I'm going to take a break. We'll come back. I'm just going to shut the group down for a minute, and then I'll call you guys back. Is that okay?
Yep.
All right. We'll be back in about 5. Bye.